unacceptable that some private institutions have taken advantage of international students by operating under-resourced campuses, lacking supports for students, and charging high tuition fees, all the while significantly increasing their intake of international students. Today, I am announcing 3 principal measures. 1, a temporary 2-year cap on new international student permits. It is the latest in a series of measures to improve program integrity, set international students up for the success in order to maintain a sustainable level of temporary residence in Canada as well. To ensure that there is no further growth in the number of international students in Canada for 2024, we are setting a national application intake cap for a period of 2 years. For 2024, the cap is expected to result in approximately 364,000 approved study permits, a decrease of 35% from 2023. In the spirit of fairness, we are also allocating the cap space by province based on population, such as that some provinces will see much more significant reductions. We'll continue to work closely with those provinces and territories to put these measures into place, as they will be responsible for determining how the cap is distributed between its designated learning institutions that they have jurisdiction over. I've had productive conversations in particular with British Columbia and Ontario already, and we all recognize that more needs to be done to protect the integrity of our system while supporting international students. In addition, effective immediately, applicants must provide a provincial attestation with their study permit application. At the same time, the cap will not apply to students at graduate levels of studies, including master's and doctoral students, those are the people we're looking for. Study permit applications at the elementary and secondary school levels will also be exempt. To repeat, as of September 1st of this year, postgraduate work permits will no longer be available to public-private institution models. Thirdly, in the coming weeks, we will be announcing that open work permits will only be allowed and be available to spouses of international students enrolled in master's and doctoral programs, as well as professional programs such as medicine and law. Spouses of international students enrolled in other levels of study, including undergraduate and college programs, will no longer be eligible. To be clear, the cap will not apply to applicants within Canada looking to extend their studies, as it wouldn't be fair to prevent someone from finishing the program, nor will the cap have an effect on study permit holders currently in Canada. These temporary measures will be in place for 2 years, and the number of new study permit applications that will be accepted in 2025 will be reassessed at the end of this year.
Dreaming of a new life in Canada? Find out your chances with our Canada CRS calculator. This easy-to-use tool helps you estimate your comprehensive ranking system score for Canadian immigration. Whether you're applying through express entry or just curious about your eligibility, our calculator provides quick and accurate insights. Visit our website today and take the first step towards your Canadian dream.
International students are a valuable asset to this country. They are bright, young individuals that enrich our communities and bring significant social, cultural, and economic benefits. They deserve the best. They deserve world-class academic experiences that they sought out and hoped for. And Canada is renowned for that. Sadly, this has not always been the case. Pour que ces avantages perdurent et que le Canada conserve sa réputation mondiale, nous devons nous attaquer aux problèmes récents qui ont rendu certains étudiants vulnérables et ont porté atteinte à l'intégrité de notre programme pour les étudiants internationaux. It's unacceptable that some private institutions have taken advantage of international students by operating under-resourced campuses, lacking supports for students, and charging high tuition fees, all the while significantly increasing their intake of international students. Cette augmentation rapide exerce également une pression sur le logement, les soins de santé et d'autres services. Si la réglementation des établissements d'enseignement relève des provinces et des territoires, certains d'entre eux ont laissé perdurer ce phénomène inacceptable pendant trop longtemps. Today, I am announcing 3 principal measures. 1, a temporary 2-year cap on new international student permits. It is the latest in a series of measures to improve program integrity and set international students up for the success in order to maintain a sustainable level of temporary residence in Canada as well. To ensure that there is no further growth in the number of international students in Canada for 2024, we are setting a national application intake cap for a period of 2 years. For 2024, the cap is expected to result in approximately 364,000 approved study permits, a decrease of 35% from 2023. In the spirit of fairness, we are also allocating the cap space by province based on population, such as that some provinces will see much more significant reductions. We'll continue to work closely with those provinces and territories to put these measures into place, as they will be responsible for determining how the cap is distributed between its designated learning institutions that they have jurisdiction over. I've had productive conversations, in particular with British Columbia and Ontario already, and we all recognize that more needs to be done to protect the integrity of our system while supporting international students. In addition, effective immediately, applicants must provide a provincial attestation with their study permit application. At the same time, the cap will not apply to students in graduate levels of studies, including master's and doctoral students. Those are the people we're looking for. Study permit applications at the elementary and secondary school levels will also be exempt. Deuxièmement, afin de mieux aligner le programme de permis de travail post-diplôme avec l'intégrité du système, nous modifions également les critères d'éligibilité. À partir du 1er septembre 2024, les étudiants internationaux qui commencent un programme d'études faisant partie d'un accord de licence de programme d'études ne seront plus admissibles à un permis de travail post-diplôme après l'obtention de leur diplôme. Dans le cadre de ces accords, les étudiants fréquentent un établissement privé qui a été autorisé à dispenser le programme d'études d'un établissement public associé. Ces programmes ont connu une croissance significative en attirant des étudiants internationaux ces dernières années, bien qu'ils soient moins surveillés que les collèges publics et qui constituent une échappatoire en ce qui concerne l'éligibilité au permis de travail après l'obtention du diplôme. To repeat, as of September 1st of this year, postgraduate work permits will no longer be available to public-private institution models. Thirdly, in the coming weeks, we will be announcing that open work permits will only be allowed and be available to spouses of international students enrolled in master's and doctoral programs, as well as professional programs such as medicine and law. Spouses of international students enrolled in other levels of study, including undergraduate and college programs, will no longer be eligible. To be clear, the cap will not apply to applicants within Canada looking to extend their studies, as it wouldn't be fair to prevent someone from finishing the program, nor will the cap have an effect on study permit holders currently in Canada. These temporary measures will be in place for 2 years, and the number of new study permit applications that will be accepted in 2025 will be reassessed at the end of this year. Nous continuons en outre à travailler avec les provinces et les territoires, les établissements d'enseignement désignés et les acteurs de l'éducation nationale des réformes plus larges sur l'élaboration d'une voie plus durable pour les étudiants internationaux, y compris la finalisation du cadre des établissements reconnus que j'avais annoncé plus tard l'année dernière. La détermination d'un niveau durable à long terme d'étudiants internationaux et la garantie que les établissements d'enseignement postsecondaire sont en mesure de fournir les niveaux adéquats de logement pour les étudiants. S'appuyant sur d'autres réformes du programme des étudiants étrangers, l'annonce d'aujourd'hui vise à protéger un système qui a ouvert la voie à des abus, ainsi qu'à soutenir une croissance démographique durable au Canada. To be absolutely clear, these measures are not against individual international students. They are to ensure that as future students arrive in Canada, they receive the quality of education that they signed up for and the hope that they were provided in their home countries. It would be a disservice to welcome international students in Canada, knowing not all of them are getting the resources they need to succeed in Canada, and having them return home disillusioned and disappointed in Canada's education system. Allowing bad actors to continue their operations would be a disservice to all the good institutions who pride themselves in providing a top-tier academic experience. Thank you. Looking forward to the questions.
Can you clarify, Minister, will we see, so right now we have over 1 million foreign students. Are the measures you are unveiling today, does that mean there will be less students as of September, or is it that the increase will be slower? And how many students will we see by the end of this year in Canada?
So you asked sort of three things, Marika. Permits are issued on a 3-year basis. So the 1 million number is the number of permits that have been issued over a 3-year period. Those people that are getting out of the 3-year programs will be reflected in, it'll be a reflection of a decrease, a 35% decrease compared to those people that are graduating from these programs. So the net intake will show that decrease of 35%. There's some room there to work with some of the provinces to make sure that they are actually decreasing. But what the cap actually does is twofold. It's a national cap, but it's spread out according by population by province. So some provinces will actually have some room to go up if they so choose, but the provinces that have been most heavily affected will have to decrease by about 50 and perhaps even more than 50% when it comes to new incoming people.
Avez-vous dit l'effet concret de cette nouvelle mesure-là sur la pénurie de logements qu'on vit actuellement au pays? Qu'est-ce que ça va changer?
Aujourd'hui, c'est pas une annonce en logement. Je parle principalement d'une annonce d'un système de visa qui était désigné pour avoir des gens qui sont très intelligents, des jeunes pour venir ici pour étudier dans le domaine postsecondaire. Évidemment, on sait qu'avec le volume dans certaines provinces, dans certaines villes, il y a eu un impact sur le logement, c'est clair. La diminution du volume va avoir un impact sur les loyers principalement, mais ce n'est pas le cas que du jour au lendemain, les prix et l'abordabilité vont être réglés à cause du fait qu'on a réglé ou qu'on a diminué le nombre d'étudiants internationaux qui s'en viennent au Canada. C'est un élément, ça a un impact, mais l'impact, puis le motif principal aujourd'hui, c'est d'enrayer un système qui a perdu le contrôle.
Monsieur Miller,
Joël Denis.
Au Québec, on fait les choses un peu différemment. Quel est l'impact de cette annonce sur le Québec? Comment ça va affecter le Québec?
Le cap s'applique au Québec, mais il reste qu'au Québec, il y a du lest, il y a de la place. Et le Québec, en théorie, aura la capacité d'augmenter. Ce sera le cas aussi pour les territoires. Pour l'Alberta et la Saskatchewan. Vous avez juste à prendre les chiffres que j'ai cités aujourd'hui, sortez vos calculatrices, puis regardez les populations dans les provinces pour voir un peu où le problème réside. Mais c'est clair qu'en ce qui a trait aux chiffres, c'est disproportionné dans certaines provinces, dont la Nouvelle-Écosse, au Nouveau-Brunswick, en Ontario, puis en Colombie-Britannique.
Monsieur Miller, est-ce que...
Provinces have not responded to you the way that you expected?
I'd say a couple of things. Clearly, there has not been action as quickly as we wanted it to be taken. We first and foremost wanted to address the matters that were within pretty much exclusive federal jurisdiction, which are fraud, the integrity of the intake system, verification of offer letters, the putting into place of a recognized institution model, which we did in the fall, and we warned provinces throughout the fall that they needed to start taking measures. I had a very productive conversation with Minister Selena Robinson on Friday about the work that they are going, I'm not going to scoop her, but the work that they are doing in British Columbia to attack this. We don't want to trip over each other, so we're going to work with them. If we get it wrong, we'll fix it with them, and if they get it wrong, we'll be talking about that as well. But we want to coordinate our activities because it is an area of shared jurisdiction. And when it comes to making sure that these institutions are actually what they say they are and not sort of fly-by-night operations and backdoor entries into Canada, that's something that provinces have a huge role in playing. I spoke to Ontario as well with Minister Jill Dunlop. It was a good conversation, but clearly they have some work to do, but we're willing to work with them. It was, again, as well, a productive conversation. They just don't have the measures in place that, for example, British Columbia is putting into place.
Monsieur Miller, est-ce qu'on peut vous entendre, Monsieur Miller?
What types for Ontario? The impact on Ontario, can you specify that? And then also what types
Well, yeah, look, we're working with them, but it'll be approximately 50% reduction.
Monsieur Miller, est-ce qu'on peut vous entendre sur la lettre de Monsieur Legault qui vous demande au gouvernement fédéral de prendre des mesures pour encadrer les migrants, l'arrivée au Canada des migrants, entre autres les migrants mexicains, en exigence de visa? Est-ce que c'est dans vos cartons de faire ça?
C'est clair qu'on regarde les mesures qu'on peut prendre comme pays pour assurer qu'on fait notre travail. En ce qui a trait aux demandeurs d'asile qui viennent, peu importe d'où ils viennent, mais du Mexique, on a vu un flux énorme de gens qui s'en viennent du Mexique et puis qui réclament le statut d'asile, avec le résultat qui est bien en deçà des moyennes qu'on voit avec les autres demandeurs d'asile. Alors, c'est clair qu'un tour de vis s'impose. Est-ce que c'est un quart de tour, un demi-tour, 2 tours? C'est à déterminer. Vous avez entendu le ministre Leblanc en fin de semaine qu'on est en train encore de réfléchir sur l'approche à prendre et la décision à prendre. Je n'ai rien de public à vous dévoiler aujourd'hui. Sachez aussi, quand on parle du Mexique, que c'est un de nos partenaires économiques principaux, puis qu'une démarche diplomatique s'impose, et c'est une démarche qui n'est pas encore complétée. Look, it's clear that we've seen increased volumes ever since we removed the visa at the beginning of our mandate. That has come with some economic benefit as well, so we shouldn't deny that. Mexico is one of our principal economic partners, so any measures that we would take, would contemplate, require a diplomatic process that is not yet completed. We certainly, it doesn't translate as well into English, but I said we certainly need to turn the screws a bit, whether it's a quarter turn or a full turn is something that's still being determined. It's something I can't share with you publicly, but know that we are not trying to be opaque, but when we take these measures, it's not something that we can necessarily discuss publicly because there are some bad actors that don't have the best interests of Canada at heart that will game the system. So we acknowledge the problem, we acknowledge that Canada has to take action, but there's some work left to do. I'll take this.
In 2 years, after these measures expire, how are you hoping that the world will be different? What's going to happen in the meantime?
Well, look, we've got 2 years to actually get the ship in order. It's a bit of a mess, and it's time to rein it in. So this is something we will, these are, even though we've put a lot of thought into this, these are still pretty much blunt measures from the federal government. We're playing with taps that we're turning on and turning off and allocating between province. So did we get it right? We'll see. But we need to work with provinces in the meantime to make sure that they are doing their jobs. There have been provincial Auditor General reports that have laid out in much more detail than I could lay out to you here today. The measures need to be taken to make sure that this is a system that has some integrity to it. It is not the intention of this program to have sham commerce degrees or business degrees that are sitting on top of a massage parlor that someone doesn't even go to, and then they come into the province and drive an Uber. If you need a dedicated channel for Uber drivers in Canada, I can design that, but that isn't the intention of an international student program. So this is something we need to rein in. They exist, those institutions need to be shut down, and it's up to the provinces to do it.
17% more aren't actually registered? Institutions, though, is your government concerned about the economic impact this will have on public universities and colleges?
We are, absolutely. This has been very, very lucrative, and it's certainly something that private colleges have made a lot of money out of. Again, I'm not the Minister of Post-Secondary Education underfunding. I'm the Minister of Immigration, and clearly in the last decade or so, even longer, post-secondary institutions in Canada have been underfunded by provinces. And these institutions are smart, and they've gone and they've seen that they can get tuition fees that are 4 or 5 times more than what my kids pay at McGill or Acadia. And they've made money off it. They haven't necessarily provided the student experience that was promised to these people that brought in. And there's been the path of least resistance as well. The source countries are not particularly diverse. We've been banking on looking at the global middle class, upper middle class, and people have made money off it. So it's a system that has some real integrity issues. It has ecosystem incentives and perverse incentives, and it's something that we need to address. And then there's clear instances of people that have been just making money hand over fist about this. But again, we don't want our best top academic institutions to be penalized. It's why we have exemptions for master's and PhD students, because those are the bright people that we need to retain. And now you will hear from some provinces quite clearly that there are some trade schools that they will want to exempt or give postgraduate work permits to, because that is where some of the needs are, whether it's in nursing or healthcare or in construction. But what I say to them is we'll work with them, and we'll work with them to get this done.
Is this where the friction is with the province?
Just
housing, but
Je vais juste répéter. Rafi, I just want to repeat in French. Je vais essayer de répéter le système, ce que j'ai dit en anglais, sans faire de la soi-disant translation. Je ne suis pas le ministre du financement de l'éducation postsecondaire. C'est clair qu'il y a le potentiel d'avoir un impact sur les institutions. Ce sont des institutions qui sont intelligentes. Ils savent qu'ils peuvent avoir des frais de scolarité qui sont 4-5 fois plus hautes que ce que mes enfants payent à McGill ou à Acadia. Et puis, on agit en conséquence. Donc, ils ont renfloué les coffres. Et c'est clair que depuis au-delà d'une décennie, les provinces sous-financent l'éducation postsecondaire à travers le Canada. D'autres, plus que certaines provinces plus que d'autres. Et ces institutions ont agi en conséquence. Donc, la réalité, c'est qu'il va y avoir un impact, mais c'est un système qui n'a pas été désigné pour avoir certainement ce flux de gens, surtout avec le niveau de diversité des pays sources. C'est clair qu'il y a une classe moyenne globale où les institutions sont allées puiser des gens, mais il y a assez, somme toute, peu de diversité. Je porte aucun jugement sur ces gens-là, mais c'est un système qui a certains effets pervers et un écosystème qui est celui qu'il est aujourd'hui. Et c'est clair évidemment, je suis au Québec, qu'on parle de la péninsule acadienne, on pourrait aussi faire un effort supplémentaire pour assurer que des étudiants qui parlent français viennent ici, quitte à pouvoir les avoir comme résidents permanents, parce que j'ai un travail comme ministre des Affaires de l'immigration, de m'assurer qu'on continue de bonifier l'arrivée de gens qui puissent parler français hors du Québec.
You call this not a housing ghetto, but our... Plus précisément, c'est des institutions post-secondaires qui sont finalement des coquilles vides. Je n'ai pas bien compris comment les mesures que vous annoncez aujourd'hui vont vraiment permettre de faire en sorte qu'elles soient visées et peut-être même qu'elles puissent mourir de leur mort finalement.
Bien, de un, la deuxième mesure que j'ai annoncée en ce qui a trait au permis de travail pour les institutions qui sont associées à des institutions publiques, c'est clair que le motif économique de quelqu'un qui s'en vient ici va être enrayé. Ils ne vont plus voir venir ici parce qu'ils ne vont pas avoir d'accès à un permis de travail après leurs études. Évidemment, c'est pas mon travail d'aller institution par institution, même de valider ces institutions qui ne devraient pas être des institutions désignées. On donne le chiffre aux provinces, puis on leur demande très respectueusement de faire leur job. S'ils veulent faire des coupes qui sont insensées, alors on va avoir une conversation additionnelle. Mais évidemment, vous l'avez dit, c'est clair qu'à travers le pays, il y a certaines institutions qui n'ont pas lieu d'exister.
The Toronto money, the money that the City of Toronto wants for asylum seekers, where are you guys on that? Is that going to happen?
Oh, well, we're working. I've had some very productive conversations with Mayor Chow, and it's work that I think is going to continue. We actually have a very good working relationship with their teams, and we're always willing to do more. It's not something that I'm prepared to announce publicly today, but we know that the pressures on it that asylum seekers are creating, which is a joint jurisdiction, it's not sole jurisdiction of the federal government. There's a role to play with the federal government, and I think we can continue that positive relationship with the mayor.
Do you need the province to play a role before you guys put up money for it?
We do, and we have those conversations with them. I've said that many times. They did put in their agreement with Mayor Chow some conditions that required the federal government to be at the table. There's always some gaming going on, but we're still willing to work with them. There have been reception centers in the past to address flows that have existed. They were closed by the provinces, but it's something that we'll continue to work with them on. This, the global flow of migrants in the world is not something that is going away anytime soon. And Canada, despite having a block of ice to the north of us and big bodies of water to the west and the east, nuclear superpower to the south of us, is not immune from those global flows.
Juste rapidement sur les demandeurs d'asile, Monsieur Legault dit que si on ne freine pas l'afflux des demandeurs d'asile au Québec, on va atteindre un point de mesure. Est-ce que la situation est devenue insoutenable au Québec?
On continue à travailler avec M. Legault. C'est clair qu'il y a eu des flux plus abondants dans le passé avec un système d'accueil et d'appui durant le flux important du chemin Roxham, où on a travaillé avec le gouvernement du Québec. Point de rupture, je ne sais pas, mais c'est clair qu'un tour de vis s'impose. Je dirais en même temps qu'il y a deux provinces qui subissent de façon disproportionnée l'impact des demandeurs d'asile, c'est le Québec puis l'Ontario. Ce qui manque un peu dans la lettre de M. Legault, c'est le fait que les gens viennent, oui, certes, ils visent les grands centres urbains, ils visent Montréal puis Toronto, mais ce qu'on mesure moins, c'est le flux de gens qui viennent à travers la frontière ou qui viennent à l'aéroport de Trudeau puis qui passent à l'Ontario. C'est pas mesurable, mais c'est visible parce qu'on les demande parfois, puis on le sait. On fait aussi un effort, peut-être qu'on n'en a pas parlé assez, de redistribuer ces gens-là dans différentes parties du pays et dans des hôtels notamment. Donc, c'est un travail qui continue et c'est pas un travail qui va disparaître du jour au lendemain, mais c'est clair qu'on va travailler avec le Québec. Merci.
Our video ends here. If you found this update useful, then please share it with your friends and family on Facebook, WhatsApp, and Twitter. Thanks for visiting us today.